have to go through, it seems if we're not conscious and we're not awake, we need pain to wake us up. And my understanding is that's what's happening on our planet at the moment. We have to get lost in order to get found, it would seem. And there needs to be enough pain in order to actually stimulate growth and change and new vision. And that seems to be just what is unfolding. I was sat giving a talk a little bit before Christmas, and the curtains were open, and it was about 3:30, and the dark started descending, and there was a candle in the middle of the room. And what happened was, I don't know what happened or what seemed to happen, was that as the darkness descended, the candle grew brighter. As the darkness descended, the candle grew brighter. And isn't that just what's happening on our planet at the moment? As the darkness descends, and all the lies and the untruths and the suffering and the pain that we are causing to each other and the planet and all other sentient beings and so on, as that comes to the surface more and more to our awareness, then their flames are rekindled. There are thousands and thousands of organisations, there are millions and millions of people that are waking up on the planet to what is happening. As the darkness descends, the light grows brighter. It can't be any other way, because we live in a world of duality, don't we? So it's just just like in my own story, things had to get really bad for me to begin to really awaken to the true nature of what life is about. This is what is happening on the planet. And it's all okay. One of my favourite catchphrases is, it's all unfolding perfectly. It's only imperfect if we think that this life is just a separate, this is all that there is, that birth is the beginning and death is the end. Then we're in deep shit. But when we remember that there is a much bigger picture going on here, and that there is an essence of us, whatever you want to call it, that is eternal, that is immortal, that cannot be extinguished, then it's okay what is happening. It's okay, because it doesn't mean that, it's okay and it's not okay, because it's hard to feel the suffering that is going on sometimes. But it's knowing at the same time that this is what we have chosen. This is our choice. Like the prodigal son or something, we have to get lost to get found. So it's okay what is happening. But how are we doing for time? If I start another little bit, once I get going, it's hard to stop me.
We've got about half an hour to go, so about 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, I can share this little chunk. So what's becoming more and more clearer for me is, it's not terribly clear, but I've tried to make it clear by putting it into 4 sort of categories, 4 stages that I would say that humanity is going through, and that I have been through myself. And they're not in any particular order, and I'd like to start with the first one, which I would call, it's called really witnessing the miracle. Just witnessing the miracle that is life. We need to get into our heart space to be able to feel that and to be able to see it. And we need to slow down. I don't know if you notice this, but the pace of life and how it's accelerated, and everybody's whizzing around and flying around. And what happens in that space is that we don't feel. We're not fully present. We're always in our heads on the next thing. And it's only when we're present that we really begin to feel and see and witness the miracle that we are. Just, these fingers, these bodies, these eyes. Who is it that looks out from behind these eyes and sees the world? I have a friend, a little feathered friend, a little tiny robin that comes each morning, and I'll give it some breadcrumbs. And it fills me up when I see the beauty of that. How can that be? What is the chances that that beautiful creature can exist? And there are millions of those in multiple formats. millions of different expressions of the divine. Life is a miracle, but we have to slow down and we have to begin to feel to really witness it. It's just, what's the chances of the 7.5 billion people on the planet that we're sat here in this room together? That's a little miracle. What little thoughts happened in your head? What ideas? What led you to be in this place right now? Because you're all here for a reason, just as I'm here for a reason. And it's about connection, and it's about love, and it's about an exchange that is taking place deeper and beyond these words that are coming out of my mouth. So I find that it's a good place to be, just to begin to just feel into our heart space and realise what a gift this life is. What will we do with our precious time? Or as Mary Oliver says, what will we do with this one wild and precious life? It's our choice. The second, perhaps before I go to the second, I guess in the way that heart space for me in my own story was around my son, was around the love for my son. That although I didn't feel worthy enough of getting my act together, and I probably wouldn't have gone to see a counsellor if it was just about me, because I didn't think it was going to make any difference, and I probably didn't feel worthy. It would have been easier just to get stoned, drop another tab or whatever. But it was the love of my son that began to open me. And then also it was the darkness, because that often the love isn't enough. There has to be pain, there has to be suffering. It seems a lot of the time. I don't choose this anymore. And I actually changed the end of my book. I think the very last... Can I just borrow it a second? I had to change it with the second edition because... Yeah. I talked about at the end of the book that I look forward to the challenges that life gives me so that I can continue to learn and grow. And then a couple of years later, after I'd published it, I kind of read that back and thought, whoa, hold on, what are you inviting there, Miguel? Are there other ways to learn other than through pain and suffering? Yes, there are. But we need to be conscious, and we need to be present, and we need to have the courage to face whatever it is that we need to face. Otherwise, life turns the heat up, to wake us up, to show us that we're not in alignment with who we really are. So I just added this little bit at the end, a PS. Perhaps there is no need for more adversity. Perhaps now is the time to learn from bliss, joy and love. So we do have that choice. But as I said, this world of duality is interesting. On the other side of the bliss and love, if you like, is the darker places. There was a man, and he was walking up and down this little bit of the street under a street light, and his head was bent low, and he was looking for something, really intent on finding something. And a lady came along. She was just passing by, and she stopped and she said, "You seem to have lost something, but perhaps can I help you?" And the man said, "Yes, I've lost my keys. If you'd like to help me, I'd really appreciate that." And so she came, and together they walked up and down, and they looked in this area under the streetlight. And eventually the lady stopped, and she said to the man, she said, "We've looked and looked, and I don't seem to be able to see your keys. I've got really good eyesight. Are you sure this is where you dropped your keys?" And the guy said, No, I didn't drop them here. I dropped them up that dark alleyway over there, but I can't see up there, so I thought to look here. How often do we do that ourselves? This has become woven into the fabric of our society. Positive, and all this stuff has its place, but sometimes things seem to get a bit too positive and fluffy and light, and that we just want to find the healing and the gifts and the transformation in the light, easy, airy places. My experience is that our greatest treasure lied in the darkest caves. Our greatest treasures and the greatest keys for our own transformation lay in us having the courage to go within those dark places where we fear to tread within ourselves. So for me, as was perfectly primed, as was perfectly set up for me, my darkest, scariest place is in relationship with woman, because it's deeply sewn into me that if I love woman, she will leave me. If I open my heart, she will leave me. It happened 3 times to me before I was 5 years old, and that has been imprinted in me. So my challenge is to have the courage to give myself to love again and again and again. And the pain does get less and it does get easier. But it's those dark places that sometimes that we need to go. Being positive, being supportive and mending and fixing, all those have their place. But the shadow work is something that has kind of got lost from our culture. From the rites of passage that all indigenous peoples had, there was the burying in the ground, there was the going into the darkness. Because that is where we begin to find our true light.